Imagine this, a packed room in the heart of Albany, New York, the air thick with tension, like a storm about to break. Zohran Mamdani, a rising star in Congress, sits at a table, his dark suit sharp but his eyes sharper. Across from him, Karoline Leavitt, a polished political operative with a reputation for biting words, fidgets in her seat. They're in the middle of a heated Capitol hearing on healthcare reform, and something's about to snap. One whispered phrase caught by a live mic is about to set the internet on fire and leave the whole country holding its breath. The hearing's been dragging for hours. Papers rustle, pens click, people shift in their chairs, restless. It's Albany's state capitol, all grand marble and heavy history, but the mood is raw, personal. Zohran's been quiet, letting others talk, his jaw tight as he listens to Caroline push her point. Hospitals in struggling communities need to step up or lose funding. Her voice is crisp, confident, but there's an edge to it, like she's daring someone to push back. Zohran finally leans forward, his voice calm but cutting. You're saying these communities aren't trying hard enough. You can't talk about effort without talking about resources. History didn't start yesterday, Caroline. She rolls her eyes, barely hiding it. Her mic's still on, and she doesn't know it. Under her breath, she mutters, "Why don't you go back to where you came from?" The words slip out, sharp and venomous, and the room freezes. A staffer coughs. A reporter's pen stops mid-scratch. The C-SPAN feed catches every syllable, and in seconds, it's out there, racing across the country. Zohran doesn't flinch. He just looks at her, his eyes steady, like he's seen this kind of hate before and knows exactly what it costs. Caroline sips her water, pretending nothing happened, but her face flushes red. She knows the mic betrayed her. The room waits for Zohran to explode, to call her out, to make a scene. But he doesn't. He folds his hands, scribbles a single note, and lets the hearing roll on. That silence, it's louder than any shout. It's the kind of silence that says, you just showed everyone who you are. Outside, the clip's already spreading. By the time the session ends, Go Back is trending, and people are picking sides. Has something like this ever happened to you? Have you ever been told you don't belong, even when you're exactly where you're meant to be? Drop your thoughts in the comments. I want to hear your story. And if this hits you as hard as it hit me, smash that like button and subscribe so you don't miss what happens next. This is just the beginning. The Albany air still feels heavy as people spill out of the Capitol, but the real storm's brewing online. Zohran Mamdani walks through the marble halls, his phone buzzing nonstop, but he doesn't check it. Not yet. He's still processing what just happened, the sting of Karoline Leavitt's words echoing in his head. He's heard versions of Go Back before on the subway in Queens, in college debates, even whispered in the halls of power. But this was live, raw, and caught for the world to see. Across the country, people are glued to their screens, replaying the clip, zooming in on Caroline's smirk, dissecting Zohran's calm. They're waiting for his next move. Caroline, meanwhile, ducks into a side room with her aide, a nervous guy named Ethan, who's already sweating through his suit. "We can say it was a misunderstanding," he mutters, scrolling through his phone as notifications pile up. Caroline's pacing, her heels clicking on the hardwood floor. "I didn't mean it like that," she says, but her voice wavers. She knows the truth. The mic was too clear, her words too sharp. By now, the clip's been slowed down, captioned, memed. It's everywhere, on X, on news sites, in group chats from Brooklyn to Boise. People aren't just mad, they're tired. Tired of the same old excuses, the same old script. Zohran heads to a quiet diner off Pearl Street, away from the cameras. His sister Aisha meets him there, her eyes full of worry. "You okay?" she asks, sliding into the booth. He nods, but his hands grip his coffee mug a little too tight. "It's not about me," he says. "It's about everyone who's ever been told they don't belong here." Aisha leans forward. "You're going to say something, right? People need to hear you." Zohran looks out the window at the Albany skyline, the old brick buildings glowing under the streetlights. "Yeah," he says softly, "but it's got to be bigger than her, bigger than this moment." Back at her hotel in downtown Albany, Caroline's not sleeping. Her phone's blowing up. Texts from party insiders, donors, even her old college roommate. Some tell her to apologize. Others tell her to double down. She flips on the TV, and there's her face, frozen in that moment, her words looping on cable news. Ethan sits across from her, drafting a statement. Karoline Leavitt regrets any misinterpretation. It starts. She shakes her head. That's not gonna cut it, she says, her voice low. For the first time, she looks shaken, like she's realizing this isn't just about her career anymore. It's about something deeper, something she can't spin her way out of. By morning, the story's taken over. In a barbershop in Harlem, men pause mid-conversation to watch the clip again. That's my guy, one says, pointing at Zohran's calm face on the screen. Didn't even blink. In a small town outside Omaha, a retired teacher named Clara shares the video on Facebook, writing, "This is why we need people like him in Congress." But not everyone's on Zohran's side. Talk radio in Dallas is already spinning it, calling it a setup to make Karoline look bad. She's just saying what people think, one host barks. The comments section is a war zone. What would you do if you were Zohran? Would you stay quiet or speak out? Let me know in the comments. I'm curious. And if this story's got you hooked, hit that subscribe button. You don't want to miss what he does next. The next morning, Albany's state capitol feels like a pressure cooker. Reporters crowd the hallways, their cameras ready, coffee cups littering the floor. Everyone's waiting for Zohran Mamdani to respond to Karoline Leavitt's go back comment. The clip's been watched millions of times now, from coffee shops in Seattle to living rooms in Miami. It's not just a moment anymore, it's a movement. People are sharing stories online, posting about times they've been told they don't belong. Zohran's face is everywhere, his silence louder than most speeches, but today he's ready to break it. He steps into a small press room, no fancy backdrop, just a plain wall and a single mic. His suit's still sharp, but there's a weight in his eyes, like he's carrying every person who's ever felt pushed out. The room goes quiet as he steps up. He sets a black folder on the podium, glances at it, then pushes it aside. I had a speech ready, he says, his voice steady but warm, like he's talking to a friend. But this isn't about prepared words. This is about truth. The cameras zoom in and you can feel the country leaning closer to their screens. I've been told to go back my whole life, Zohran says. In Queens, where I grew up, on the campaign trail, even here in these halls. It's not new, but yesterday when Karoline said it, it wasn't just about me. It was about every kid who's been told they don't fit, every parent who's had to explain to their child why someone hates them for existing. He pauses, letting the words sink in. When you say go back, you're not just attacking a person. You're attacking their right to be here, their right to dream here, their right to fight for this country. The room's so quiet you could hear a heartbeat. Zohran looks straight into the cameras. I'm not going anywhere, he says, his voice like steel wrapped in velvet. Not because I'm stubborn, because this is my home. My parents came to Brooklyn with nothing but hope. They built a life here. I was born here. I ran for office here. And I'm staying here not just for me, but for everyone who's ever been made to feel like they need permission to exist. He doesn't yell. He doesn't point fingers. But every word lands like a punch. Across the country, people feel it. In a diner in Pittsburgh, a black truck driver named Marcus stops eating, his eyes glued to the TV. That's how you do it, he mutters, nodding. In a classroom in Albuquerque, a Latina teacher plays the speech for her students, and one kid whispers, "He's talking about us." In Raleigh, a white retiree named Ellen wipes a tear, posts the clip online and writes, "This is what leadership looks like." Karoline's watching too, holed up in a hotel room in Schenectady. Her phone's off, but the TV's on, and Zohran's words fill the room. She's pale, her hands clenched. Ethan, her aide, sits quietly, not daring to speak. She's winning this, Karoline whispers. But she's wrong. It's not about winning or losing. It's about truth cutting through the noise. Her team's latest statement, full of regret for misinterpretation, is drowning in backlash. People aren't buying it. They're done with half apologies. Have you ever felt like you had to prove you belong? What did you say or wish you'd said? Share your story in the comments, and if Zoran's words hit you like they hit me, hit that like button and subscribe. This story's far from over. The sun's barely up in Albany, but the city's buzzing with Zohran Mamdani's words. His press conference from yesterday is still rippling across the country, lighting up screens in places like Detroit, where a single mom named Tanya watches it on her lunch break, tears in her eyes. He gets it, she whispers to her coworker. He knows what it's like to feel like you're not enough. In a bar in Savannah, a group of retirees debates over beers, one saying, "That man just said what I've felt my whole life." Zoran's speech isn't just a moment, it's a mirror, forcing people to look at themselves, their biases, their silence. Karoline Leavitt's holed up in her Schenectady hotel, the curtains drawn tight. Her phone's off now, but the weight of the world's judgment is heavy. Ethan, her age, scrolls through X, reading the flood of comments tearing her apart. "They're calling it a career ender," he says, his voice low. Caroline stares at the floor, her usual sharpness dulled. "I didn't think it'd go this far," she admits, her voice cracking. She's not ready to apologize, not fully, but for the first time she's questioning herself, not just her words, but the anger behind them. Why did she say it? Why did it feel so easy in that moment? Zoran's back in his office, a small room tucked away in the Capitol's maze. His desk is covered with handwritten letters, hundreds of them, pouring in from places like Tulsa and Burlington. One's from a 12-year-old girl in Oakland named Amara. "You made me feel like I can be here," she writes, her words shaky but bold. Zoran sets the letter down, his throat tight. His sister Aisha stops by, carrying takeout from a local deli. "You see what you started?" she says, half smiling. Zoran shakes his head. "It's not about me, it's about all of us." But Aisha's not letting him off that easy. "You gave them a voice, Zoran. Don't downplay it." Outside, the narrative's shifting. Talk shows in Chicago and podcasts in Austin are dissecting Zoran's speech, calling it a masterclass in grace under fire. But not everyone's clapping. A radio host in Phoenix rants, "He's playing the victim card, milking this for attention." The comments online are split. Some call Zoran a hero, others say he's blowing it out of proportion. Caroline's team tries to pivot, releasing another statement. Mrs. Leavitt is committed to unity and regrets any distress caused. It's polished, but it's hollow. People want more than words. They want accountability. Zoran's not rushing to respond. He spends the evening with his parents in their modest Brooklyn apartment, the same one he grew up in. Over dinner, his mom, Fatima, looks at him with pride but worry. "You're carrying a lot now," she says. "People are looking to you." Zoran nods, poking at his food. "I just want them to feel seen," he says. His dad, Imran, puts a hand on his shoulder. "You reminded me of when we first came here. We had to fight to belong too." That hits Zoran hard, like a memory he's carried in his bones. Have you ever had to fight to feel like you belong? What kept you going? Drop it in the comments. I'm reading every one. And if this story's pulling you in, hit that subscribe button. Zoran's about to do something no one expects. Albany's streets are quiet now, but the story's still burning through every corner of the country. Zohran Mamdani's words from that press conference have become a rallying cry, shared in church basements in Memphis and community centers in Portland. People aren't just watching, they're feeling it. In a small diner in Cleveland, an older black woman named Ruth plays the clip on her phone, her hands shaking. "He's saying what we've all carried," she tells her friend, her voice thick with tears. Zoran's not just a congressman anymore. He's a symbol of standing tall when the world tries to push you down. Karoline Leavitt's world, though, is shrinking. She's still in Schenectady, avoiding the press, her confidence crumbling. Her aide, Ethan, sits across from her in a dimly lit hotel room, scrolling through emails from party leaders. "They're saying you need to step back," he says, not meeting her eyes. Caroline's jaw tightens. "Step back," she snaps. "I said something stupid, not criminal." But deep down, she knows it's not just about the words. It's about the wound they opened, the truth they exposed. She flips on the TV and there's Zoran's face again, his calm voice cutting through the noise. She mutes it, but she can't mute the guilt creeping in. Zoran's back in Albany, prepping for a community town hall in a modest rec center in Troy, just outside the city. The room's packed. Teachers, nurses, parents, kids, all there to hear him. He steps to the mic, no notes, just a bottle of water in hand. I didn't plan to be here talking about this, he starts, his voice soft but clear. But when someone tells you to go back, they're not just talking to me. They're talking to you, to your kids, to your neighbors. The crowd nods, some wiping tears. A young man in the back, a first-generation immigrant from Syracuse, raises his hand. How do you keep going when they hate you for who you are? Zoran pauses, his eyes warm. You keep going because your story matters. Because you're not just here, you're building here. The room erupts in applause, but it's not just cheers, it's release. People are tired of feeling small, and Zoran's giving them permission to stand tall. The moment goes viral, clips flooding X and TikTok. In a bar in New Orleans, a bartender replays it saying, "This guy's got guts." In a retirement home in Boise, an elderly white man named George watches and mutters, "I was wrong about him. He's the real deal." Even kids in a San Diego classroom are talking about it. One girl saying, "He makes me feel like I can do anything." Karoline's team pushes out another statement. This one's softer, admitting poor judgment, but still stopping short of a real apology. It's not enough. Protesters show up at her next event in Rochester, holding signs that say "Words hurt" and "Own it." She sees them from her car window, and for a second, her eyes well up. Ethan notices. "You could talk to him," he says quietly. "Zoran, clear the air." Karoline shakes her head, but the idea lingers. She's starting to see she's not just fighting the public, she's fighting herself. What would you say if you were in Zoran's shoes? Have you ever had to face hate head-on and choose how to respond? Share your thoughts in the comments. I'm dying to know. And if this story's hitting you in the gut, smash that like button and subscribe. Zoran's next move is going to shake things up even more. Zohran Mamdani's Buffalo speech is lighting up the country, from Atlanta barbershops to Denver coffee shops, where people huddle over phones replaying his words. In a Charlotte church, a pastor pauses his sermon to say, "That's courage, plain and simple." In St. Louis, a single mom named Tanya wipes tears, whispering, "He knows what it's like to feel invisible." Zoran's not just a congressman now, he's a voice for everyone who's been told they don't belong. Karoline Leavitt's holed up in Schenectady, her world unraveling. Her aide, Ethan, scrolls through X, grimacing. "They're calling it a career ender," he says. Karoline snaps, "Resign?" for one comment, but her voice shakes. She sees Zoran's speech, his steady fire, and feels the weight of her words. She's starting to wonder why they slipped out so easily. Zoran's back in his Brooklyn apartment, the city's hum outside his window. His parents' old photos sit on the shelf, reminders of their immigrant struggles in Queens. Over dinner, his mom, Fatima, says, "You're carrying our fight now." He nods, tired but resolute. At a packed gym in Buffalo, he steps to the mic. No notes. "Someone told you you don't belong," he says, his voice warm but firm. "But you're here. That's the victory." The crowd roars, some crying, a teenage girl shouting, "We're with you." The clip explodes online, from a Tulsa diner to a San Diego classroom. Karoline's team pushes another weak statement. More regret, no apology. It flops. Protesters in Rochester wave signs. Words hurt. Ethan suggests Karoline talk to Zoran. She hesitates, but the idea sticks. Ever had to stand up to hate? What kept you going? Drop your story in the comments. I'm reading them. Hit subscribe to see how this ends. Zohran Mamdani's words are everywhere, from Anchorage community centers to Key West porches, sparking raw talks about belonging. In a Des Moines library, teens watch his speech, one saying, "He makes me feel seen." In Philly, a man named Leroy leans over his beer, muttering, "That's a leader. No yelling, just truth." Zoran's pushing a healthcare equity bill in D.C., fueled by memories of his parents' struggles in Queens, his dad's late-night cab shifts, his mom's quiet strength against sneers. The bill's personal, not political. Karoline Leavitt's in Syracuse, sitting with an advocacy group, listening for once. A nurse named Maria says, "Your words cut deep, but showing up here, that's a start." Karoline nods, her throat tight, writing a private letter. I was wrong. She doesn't send it, but it's a crack in her armor. Zohran's bill passes with quiet support from Karoline's office. No cameras, just progress. Months later in Queens, kids wave at Zohran, an older woman saying, "You made us proud." Karoline joins a dialogue program in Rochester, learning slowly, not redeemed but trying. This wasn't about a comment, it was about choosing truth over hate, clarity over noise. Zohran showed us how to rise without tearing others down. Ever seen someone turn pain into power like that? Share in the comments. I'm listening. Subscribe for more stories that hit like this.